we explore the German Mastercuts in some more depth.
This is the Kitsune-Klan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed.
In historical European martial arts, there is one specific set of techniques that most people are really keen on. These are the 5 Meisterhaeue, in English Mastercuts, that refer back to the German school and have been always referred to Lichtenauer. There are many interpretations of these Mastercuts available, and they differ in certain aspects. We have been also loosely been referring to these cuts, and we have shown some of them as follow-up techniques, but we have not looked deeper into the interrelations about a distinct differentiation between them, and so also our terminology was rather sloppy in this aspect, and therefore we think we need to explore that a bit deeper. Point 1, the general belief that there are 5 master cuts is probably an oversimplification. We will come to that. For us, the important point is, in our view, master cuts require the thumbhold. If you don't hold your sword in thumbhold, you will not do master cuts. A lot of people seem not to really like the thumbhold and prefer the normal hold. That's because there the mechanics for cuts is well known and often seen. In the thumbhold, the power of the cuts is gathered from different sources, from different motions. With the German longsword, in thumbhold, this is mostly about crossing and uncrossing the arms. In detail, it's of course a rotational movement of the lead arm, but the force is generated by both arms either intertwining or out-twingling and therefore performing force. This is strange at first, but as soon as you understand that, you can use that for performing very flourishing, flowering, watering cuts, however you want to call that. So cuts that easily intermix into the next one, into the next one, into the next one. Looking now at the master cuts, we at best start in one hoot, in one position, that is called the Schrankhut. In Italian, this is one of the form of the posta coda lunga. We will start out with the sword on the left side. If I get attacked on angle 1, I move the sword up in a half circle. My hands are crossed and I uncross them during this motion. I aim at the head with the short edge of my sword, and by this I can hit the opponent and at the same time stop the incoming blade. If the opponent attacks on angle 2 and I'm starting out in this position, I also start to uncross my arms, but the blade is now not aiming for the head. It's crossing over the midline, aiming for the incoming blade. My short edge, so again, the backside of the sword, will hit on the flat of the incoming sword, by this stopping it, and my long blade can be used to attack the opponent. This is the Krumpau in its strict sense. The third possibility I have from this position is that I also start uncrossing my arms, but in the same motion, I raise my arms, my hands, over the head, and with this, I produce a Zwerchhau that hits the opponent from my right side. So these 3 master cuts can be performed from the same position, and they are pretty close in overall motion. The same is true if we go to the other side of the body. I put the sword on my right side. Now I have a Nebenhut. Again, I can perform 3 cuts. My hands are uncrossed and I start to cross them. If the opponent attacks in angle 2, I aim for his head. I will hit with the long edge on his head while being protected. This, in the strict sense, is a Scheitelhau. It's very similar to the Schielhau in overall function, but it uses the other side of the blade. If the opponent attacks in angle 1, I move again over the midline, I cross the midline, and my long edge will hit the flat of the sword, by this stopping it, and then I can use the short edge to attack the opponent. The third strike is again, you can guess it, it's a Zwerchhau. So that means I move up my hands while performing the strike, and by this I hit the opponent with the long edge, but from my left side. The strong similarity of always 3 cuts on one side is now something we can make use of. If we have 3 strikes on each side, you can already see it's in principle 6 master cuts, but the 2 Zwerchhaue are usually summarized with the horrible term Zwergkopter, but it makes a difference. So let's assume I want to perform a Schielhau to defend against an attack, but the opponent feints and moves the sword to the other side. Due to the relatively long reaction time with a longsword, I will have to have decided to perform a Schielhau already early on, and I can only make minor adjustment to this movement as soon as my sword is on the way. And this is now the beauty, because the Krumpau is very similar to the Schielhau. It just requires to cross the midline, and that can be achieved already with a very minor motion of my overall body. And that is also the natural reaction if I recognize that the motion of the opponent will not attack my left side, but my right side. I automatically, instinctively turn a bit, and that transforms my Schielhau into the Krumpau. The same is true for the opposite pair. If I plan on doing a Krumpau, but the opponent feints and moves the sword to the other side, I will perform a Schielhau very naturally. As an alternative, I can also have the situation, my opponent attacks me, I want to throw a Schielhau or a Krumpau, and the opponent recognizes and draws the sword back in order to defend against my counterattack. In this case, I can move my hands forward and upward and perform a Zwerchhau, going under or around the deflection of the opponent. As you have guessed it already, the same is true for the other side of the body. If I want to perform a Scheitelhau and the opponent feints, I will also simply move the sword slightly to the other side and perform a Zornhau. If I planned originally on a Zornhau and the opponent feints, I will end up in a Scheitelhau. If I prepare any of these two and the opponent draws back the sword in order to offend against the counter, I can use a Zwerchhau to go around this or over this deflection. In principle, we therefore have only the decision to move on the left side or onto the right side, and the adjustments, whether I will end up in a Schielhau, Krumpau or Zwerchhau, are a matter of minor changes that are induced by instinctive reactions on our body if we let that happen. There is of course more to it. If you look at how most people perform a Schielhau, it's not this Schielhau as we presented it here, the no-step version. They usually do a one-step version. This one only also works, but it's a bit different concerning the connections between them. Also, if we look at the Zwerchhau, we often have the Zwerchhau as a follow-up strike and not so much in this situation as a preemptive strike. We can, as soon as we understand this interrelation between the Mastercuts, also start to combine them in a different way. We can, for example, use after Schielhau Zwerchhau instead of Zwerchhau Zwerchhau, which is suboptimal concerning the protection of these positions. And that's another aspect we have to point out here. A lot of people don't get that the real strength of the thumbhold is that it places the blade in a way that it protects us much more from one body side than does the normal hold when cutting. Also, all these master cuts can perfectly be integrated into our roof block, shield block flow. By this, doing the master cuts, you still retain the same protection as with a roof block or a shield block while striking at the same time. And that's now only scratching the surface, because there's much more. We can perform master cuts, for example, as push cuts, and we can combine them in much more complex manners. Means we will have another video dealing with these aspects. For the moment, hope we could inspire you. See you around next time.